Hi, Anna. Well, Anna, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on the show. It's we connected a month ago almost. Now,
I
now
know,
we're
I
here.
know. Yeah, I
Yeah,
know. Thank you, Tony. I'm excited to be here.
yeah. Well, sounds like you're an author, powerful businesswoman, Latina, up and coming Latina leader in the U.S., not just in Boston where you're at, right?
That
Um,
is correct.
So you know what, I don't want to butcher your story, but feel free to share and just let us know how you came about to where you are today.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. So as you said, Latina, Puerto Riqueña, with parents from Dominican Republic. Very early on in our career, we moved to Boston, which then became, our home. We've been here for
Mhm.
a very long time. And really just navigated going through college. Working my way into sort of technology, the corporate space, and trying to figure out, where do I want to be and what are just the things that I wanted to be able to do, as they say, when you grow up, right?
Yeah.
My story really stems from having very strong parents, strong entrepreneurs who just knew they wanted something for their kids. And they always told us since we were little, we don't know how you guys are going to do it. We don't know how we're going to pay for it, but you're going to go to college. That
Yeah.
was the number one thing that they always stressed to us. You're going to go to college. And then you see these two, parents who, didn't really have an education. My mom tried to take some classes at one of the local community colleges, but life happens. You have to work, so she had to give that up. And you see them working day and night, right? And so that sort of resilience, that drive that they had to
Mhm.
provide and create a better space for their children, it's certainly something that has stuck within me and has driven me to be where I am today and even to drive my children to where they're going to go to.
Mhm.
And so I kind of came up the technology space. I studied computer science and
Okay.
Spanish. And, I've been in quality assurance now for over 30 years, really just um, what's the right word? Just, I really became a subject matter expert, right? Really curating my craft and making sure that I knew everything that I could know about the software development life cycle. I've managed to work in a number of different industries, a number of different companies, and really going in there and understanding what's the importance to quality. How do we apply quality standards through everything,
Mhm.
not just to what the products we were developing, but to the company as a whole. How does the quality impacts a company's bottom line? And then, of course, I've been able to run large global, QA
Uh-huh.
teams. I think the largest team I had was like a 200-person team globally. And I've had many successes. Obviously, I've had a large career outside of work from a community perspective as well. Very involved in diversity and inclusion, leading women, amplifying women's voices, being a Latina in technology, right?
Yeah.
Creating spaces for more women and more Latinos to
Is
join
that
this
is that
space.
rare to have Latina women in technology?
Oh my God, yes. It's
Like
very,
how
very
rare?
rare.
How rare would you
I
say?
think right now there was a study that was done where between 2016 and 2020,
Mhm.
and if I remember correctly, it said that out of, I think it was like 60% there was male, to like 38% female, and of those numbers it was only about 6% that were Latinos in general, right? And if you were to break out the Latinos population, the women in that, it's even less,
Wow.
right? So it's
Yeah, it
it's
says
it's
here
very low.
1.7% based on a search we just did of women in tech, Latina women in tech, right?
What was the percentage?
1.7.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
All
based on
right.
this study here. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not surprised. I'm definitely not surprised.
What do you think is
Um,
driving that?
I would say that what's driving it is when you think about technology,
Hmm.
people think of development, people think male, people think you're in a world where you're just coding kind of
Hmm.
by yourself, right? And women, We like to be engaged. We're people,
Yeah.
people oriented. And I think that we've been sort of raised to be able to believe that anything that has to do with like technology
Hmm.
should only be done by men.
Right.
That's not a space for women, right? That's really the history. That's really the culture.
Hmm.
And so we need to be able to, you know, share why technology is a great place to be, why it's fun, why it's exciting, all the great things that we're able to do, so that we can entice and we can share with others why they should be part of this journey, why they should make, a role in technology part of their career. And
Hmm.
by the way, technology has so much to it, right? It's not just quality assurance. It's not just being a developer. You could be in marketing. You could be a
Uh-huh.
lawyer. You could be, a business analyst. So many different things. Finance guru,
Hmm.
right? There's so many different roles that you can do in a technology field.
Yeah. So speaking of quality, right? What do you think with all the that's going on with Boeing and their issues? So as a quality person, where does that problem start, and why are they having problems? Based on your opinion.
Right. I mean, look, I'm sure that there is a very tight quality assurance process that happens, right? Especially for something at Boeing, with planes, things that are medical, right? All these type of companies that, there's zero tolerance for any escapes, for any defects. And I'm sure that they're thoroughly looking at all the possible ways that you could test and all the variety that you could introduce to be able to create your test. But the world is changing, and the world is changing so vast, so quickly that it is hard to keep up with what are all the different types of variations that you need to introduce in your testing.
Hmm.
Right. And that's really what it comes down to. How much testing have you done? How much of the not your traditional step by step testing you're doing,
Hmm.
how much of that ad hoc testing of that real life scenario, and then you're tying that with performance, and then you add in their identity, right?
Yeah.
There's so much, it's so complex that although you want to strive for zero room of failure, for zero escape defects, the reality is that there's always going to be some very small number um, for some escapes. And I'm sure that they are working really hard now to try to figure out how do they bring that number down to zero? How do they think of additional path, additional coverage, additional, just different variations to introducing your testing
Hmm.
planning to try to minimize any future issues.
Do you think like supply chain issues have to do with it, and not controlling the full supply chain? Because you think if they have a vendor, right, they're serving other masters. So do you think that plays into it?
Tony, that's an interesting question because here's the thing. Unless you're making everything from scratch,
Hmm.
right, which is impossible, then you are relying on all these other vendors and all these other companies. Someone is building a small chip. Someone is building something that you're using that you're then
Hmm.
taking all that, compiling together to build whatever product you're building, right?
Uh-huh.
And you can rest assured that what you're testing, you're doing the best at making sure that the quality is very high.
Hmm.
But how can you guarantee that for someone else's, work? You can't.
Right.
All you can do is ask the right questions, get some test results, hope and pray that they're doing the right thing, right?
Yeah.
Do some audits and try to see if you can, see that from beginning to end. To try when you're putting all that together to try to say, okay, are we thoroughly testing this? Do we understand all the nuances that can occur?
Hmm.
So, so I would say that there's always room for improvement. And I would say that everyone is always taking very seriously what they're doing and what they're building. but everyone always has some type of blinders, right? Because it's all also based on your exposure. I've
Hmm.
been lucky enough to have had the opportunity to work in a number of different industries. That allows me to, when I go into an organization, to help
Uh-huh.
them do transformation, to help them create a strategy for their product, right? That allows me to think about, okay, they may just be thinking about this, but I know that in other companies, in other industries, they encounter these other issues. Let me also make sure that they're thinking about that here, right? So having someone that has an expertise in quality assurance and a diverse expertise, different products, different companies, different industries, that helps you to put together a better, thorough, strategy and implementation.
And it helps you come up with like an out of box solution for an out of box problem, right?
Exactly.
That you can
Exactly.
leverage other industries and say, hey, this worked in this industry. Let's give it a shot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
And you have to really be able to, like I said, study, learn. I spend a lot of time, whether it's attending conferences, reading articles. I'm constantly joining different testing communities, different development and agile communities in order to keep myself abreast of what's happening today and how do I stay ahead of what's coming up in the future. You have to do that.
Yeah, you're a busy person. I mean, you're on several boards. How do you manage that time?
Oh,
Like, I'm enough
it
with
is.
like the one or two boards that I'm involved with.
Tony, I join boards because I'm passionate about
Hmm.
them. And that passion is what allows me to give each board my 100% attention and
Hmm.
give it my all, right? Because I believe in the mission, I believe in what we're doing. As you said, I'm in a number of different boards. I
Yeah,
continue to join different initiatives, right? And as I'm, working, I've now launched my consulting company. And so,
and you have
as
a
I do,
consulting company.
of
What are
course,
you not
because
doing?
what am I not doing? It's all about, but Tony, how many women have you met are Latina,
Hmm.
are in technology, have spent 30 plus years learning quality assurance because there's a lot of Afro Latinas who have been in this space, but you kind of spend a little bit of time. I've spent 30 plus years learning my craft, right? Also, making sure that I'm bringing in women into the space,
Hmm.
being very intentional. Thinking about quality, equality, I should say, right? Making sure that I have a gender diverse group, making sure that I have equality from a salary perspective. What I mean? These are all the things that I think about. Ensuring
Hmm.
that the vendors that I'm working with provide me a diverse pool of candidates. So important, right? And so these are the things that I'm very intentional
Hmm.
about. And so when I do all of these things,
Yeah.
it provides me a platform to be able to share that with others. It provides me a platform to be able to tell these young high school kids, college students, those early career
Mhm.
QA engineers, that there is a career path, there is success, there is so much that they can do in this space just by seeing someone like me being
Yeah.
able to accomplish it.
And you're able to show by example. It's like,
Yes.
look, this is everything that I'm doing. You can do it too, but you
Yes.
have to want it, right?
That
So
is
where's
key.
that motivation coming from?
Oh, you
Especially
know,
coming, what it sounds like from humble beginnings.
Yes. Well, and absolutely, and that's what I was going to say, right? Because it does stems from having these role models at home, having these
Mhm.
parents who worked really, really, really hard to get us to where we're at. I mean, my dad, I think he studied to like the seventh grade in
Wow.
school in Dominican Republic. As I
How, how
mentioned
did
earlier,
how
my
did he
mom.
get here though? How did he make that Boston connection?
Oh, well, my parents
I
both
mean,
got
what did
married
that
in
journey
Dominican
look
Republic.
like?
So both of my parents got born and raised in Dominican Republic. They
Mhm,
got married there. My mom had an opportunity to work at a hotel in Puerto Rico through a friend of
mhm,
hers. And so her and my dad moved to Puerto Rico. There they had their four kids. I'm the second oldest,
mhm.
two boys, two girls. And then I guess through my dad's, I had some friends who had left Puerto Rico and moved to Boston, and so he took a trip to Boston first to kind of, scope it out, see whether this
Yeah.
is where we wanted to be, and then came back and then literally dragged the rest of the family. And we all came and joined him in Boston. And let me tell you, it was a rude awakening. When we got to
Uh-huh.
Boston, it was in the middle of winter. It was like,
Coming from a nice tropical island.
oh my God, we were so cold. It was freezing, and we were in an old abandoned home, and those that we spent 2 weeks in this, just burned down house, right? And that's what's my beginnings. And so they really strive to making sure that we had a community. And so we
Mhm,
became part of the, Catholic Church here in the Boston area. And that was like our sanctuary. That was home, right? I participated in what was called Youth in Action.
mhm,
And I did a number of trips. One of them that I vividly remember was we did a trip to Dominican Republic where we helped to build a church in a
mhm,
very, rural part of Dominican Republic. And so, we were raised with this sense of giving back.
mhm,
Right, with this, community engagement, and just making sure that even though we may not have had enough, we always had enough for the next person.
mhm,
We always had enough to be able to invite someone else in. We always had people coming and staying at our house because they needed to also, they didn't have a place to stay. And so our doors were always welcome to everyone. And that's what I grew up. That's what I remember, And so that resilience, that passion, that drive that my parents showed for, even though they fell down, picking themselves back up and continuing to go, that's what I saw every single day. And that shaped me.
mhm. Are you still involved with that church
Oh,
in
for sure,
some
for
way? Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. We still go to church, although the church people will see this and they're like, you have not been to mass in a
Yeah.
very long time. But my family is still very much engaged in church, and all of us, all my brothers and sisters, we all graduated from college. We all have successful careers. My sister got two master's degree. My
Wow.
younger brother is doing great with technology and real estate. My older brother, those that know, if those that you and follow the Dominican musicians, they would know my brother, who's
Yeah.
Enna Jimenez. He's a Latin Grammy winner,
Really? Okay.
nominated for so many awards and doing
I
amazing
listened
things.
I listened to
Um,
Romeo Santos.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's like the musical director for The Voice in Dominican Republic. Like he's an accomplished
Yeah.
person, and so this is my family. This is how we grew up. And that tight knit family, right? Because it was also about having a space where we can all come together. We
Mhm.
can talk to each other. We were our own advisors.
Yeah.
Talk about having that nuclear family that helps you all out. That was my family. We went to each other whenever we had doubts or questions or just,
Wow.
all right, we need a moment.
That's amazing because, you don't really hear much about close-knit families other than maybe for a certain, prominent families in the area, but majority of the time you look at business itself, right? There's a lot of infighting because I deal with wealth planning and people fight. Money
Yeah.
changes things, right? And it sounds like your family has been able to stick together and create a solid foundation.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so much so that that's also trickled down to our kids. So, funny enough, we all kind of had kids around the same time frame. So, all my nieces and nephew, and not all, there's like older nieces and nephew. There's like the ones that are like a year and 2 year apart. And then we got some younger ones that are now growing up. But, my nieces are my kids and my sister's kids and my brother's kids, right? The whole spending Christmas together. We would travel, spend a whole week together during Christmas, during the summer. Camping was a big thing. Oh, we were
Yeah.
big camping family, right? So we would have when we go camping, we would rent like 5 or 6 sites. It was a
Uh-huh.
good 20, 25 people, almost 30 people, and we would spend an entire weekend together, a whole week.
Like a
And so our
fiesta on the
kids,
beach.
oh, let me tell you, lots of partying. But the kids grew up with that close knit. Like my daughter's best friend was her cousin. You know what I mean? The cousins were always doing things together. That's how we raise our kids to make sure that you didn't have to rely on other people. You relied on your family to
Mhm.
help you get through whatever issues or to celebrate all the successes. It's
Yeah.
very, very important.
Speaking of family, how do you feel the corporate like culture is these days, right? Because in the last year, I keep seeing pretty much DEI has been almost wiped out
Mm.
in corporate speak, right? So how do you think that's affecting organizations right now?
Well, the interesting part about that is to me, I've always seen diversity as being, played out in two roles,
Hmm.
right? There are managers, leaders within the organization that should always have
Hmm.
a view, a lens, an opinion about how do they bring diversity within their organizations. And then there's, of course, a diversity and inclusion office that helps, right? There are the ones that create sort of the foundation that provides you the tools to be able to execute on your diversity initiatives, which is super important to have that. What I see right now is that people are forgetting, as much as there is an attack on DE&I, and it's a
Hmm.
huge attack, and of course, I'm against that, because I do believe that we need our DE&I partners. We
Hmm.
cannot survive without them. I do think that it's important to not forget that you don't need to have DE&I in your title to still execute a DE&I initiative.
Hmm.
That is so important, right? I have never have had DE&I in any of my titles, ever.
Hmm.
Never. However, I have made huge strides, huge impacts in
Yeah.
every single organization I've been at from a DE&I perspective
Hmm.
because I believe in the importance of it. I believe that it will make not just my team, my group, my department better. It will make the entire company overall a much better place to be
Hmm.
at. And so I do believe that it's something that it's everyone's responsibility to play a role in DE&I. As you know, the challenge is that there are many people who don't believe it is their responsibility to do that, right? And that's the challenge. And so, how do we convince, influence, challenge, push back on others to say,
Hmm.
in case you didn't know, the future is about the minority. The future is Latinos. The future is, you need to understand who your customers are going to be in the future. And if you're not making those changes today, you're not going to be around because you're not really making sure that you are communicating to the consumers that
Hmm.
you want to have in the future, right? So to me, it's one of those issues that we need to remind people that you do not need to have DE&I in your title to still make an impact.
So where do you think the attacks are coming from, and why is it being attacked? Is
Oh,
the question.
because people feel threatened. You know
Uh,
this,
yeah.
right? People
I
feel
want to hear it from
like
you though.
I mean, and they shouldn't be, right? Because
Yeah.
here's the thing, I came in this space of, male dominated space, right? I mean,
Hmm.
technology has always been lots of men, and definitely lots of diversity from a race perspective, but it's still very much a male space.
Hmm.
And so we want to make sure that everybody realizes that there are different ways of how to embrace everyone in your organization. How do you create a space where women feel like they can speak, like their voice can be heard, their opinion matters, like someone isn't just going to talk over them, right? And the same thing when you've got people of color in your room, they also need to feel like their opinion matters.
Hmm.
But even going beyond that, it is critical, it is important to have diversity of thought in the room. Because if you have only the same type of people who have the same similar type of backgrounds, then guess what? Your end result is only going to appeal to only that same type of folks.
Hmm.
Right? Because you're channeling a certain thought process. When you have diversity of thought in the room, and how you get that is by
Hmm.
having different gender, different races in that room. When
Hmm.
you do that, oh my God, the output of what you're going to create,
Yeah.
mind blowing, right? I mean, it's
And
going
you
to
have the
be
data
that
to
much more
support it,
better.
right?
Absolutely, because
Yeah.
we're going to come at it from every single lens. I'm going to look at it from the lens of, my immigrant family. I'm going to look at it from the lens of someone who didn't
Hmm.
have a lot of money, someone who didn't always have food at her table, from someone who had, electricity, power cut off because I
Hmm.
couldn't pay the bill, right?
Yeah.
Um, I'm going to look at it from those angles. Someone who strive for ha- financial stability, someone who
Hmm.
wants to be able to provide for their family. There's so many people with these stories, and these are the stories that need to come into the ballrooms, come into companies, into whatever products you're trying to build, so
Hmm.
that the consumers can see themselves in what you're building.
Big shout out and a huge thank you to Zekin for making this happen. They have an amazing platform. Check out their website, zeacon.com, zeacon.com.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have to be able to tie those things together in order to create sort of, building that storyline. People need to understand
Yeah.
that the ones creating it were people like me because they get it, and they're going to build something that someone like
Yeah.
me wants it because
Right.
they understand my story.
Right. Now, is that the foundation for the book you wrote? And you wrote several books, but
I have a
the one that I bought was the Extraordinary Latinas book. So tell me about that book.
Yes, yes. And I did see that you bought that.
Yeah.
Thank you. So Extraordinary Latinas is a book of 12 authors.
Hmm.
The idea, the mastermind behind this was a great friend of mine, Eliana Rojas, who's doing amazing work. And she was like, and I have this idea. I want to put together stories of resilience, empowerment, encouragement. And so she reached out to 12 of us, and we collectively work together and produce. We each have our own stories, and we produce this book. And now Eliana has now gone on, and I
Uh,
believe she's working on her third or the fourth edition of the books. It's been such an amazing experience. But so my story talks about resilience, right?
mhm.
My story talks about when you are at that low point in your life, how do you get back up? Right?
Mhm.
How do you find the strength to pull yourself out from this negative space? Which is hard and something that we all encounter every single day in our corporate lives. Every day.
So what was it that pulled you out? And what was it that brought you into that space, that mental space? What was it that brought you out?
I've had multiple instances where I've gone into these sort of dark spaces, and
Hmm.
it's when so it starts off by saying I am a very confident person, right?
Hmm.
And I know that I know my stuff. People, I can dance around people when it comes to talking about quality assurance. Okay, like
Yeah.
I know my stuff.
Yeah.
But oftentimes you get someone who starts playing with your mind, right? And who starts saying, well, no, that was not good. No, I disagree with that. And they do it in a way that it just gets at you, and they do it slowly, and they do it over and repeatedly, and after a while they start chipping at your confidence, and then you start being like, oh my God, maybe they're right. The
Hmm.
minute you have that first thought of maybe they're right, that's your start of the downfall, right?
Right.
Because now you're letting your armor is now cracked.
Hmm.
And now you're letting all these doubts. Now imposter syndrome is creeping in, right? You're saying, well, maybe they're right. Maybe I am not good enough.
Hmm.
And so in this one instance, that's exactly what happened. Again, this has happened a number of times. Just one manager, one leader. I just kind of went into the space and I spiraled and I lost all my confidence, right?
Mm,
And it really took a toll on me. I became very depressed. I was really unhappy. People noticed it and people were like, oh my God, what is happening with you,
mm,
Enna? And luckily, and I say luckily because not everyone always has this, but luckily I had my family, my friends, and this amazing group of friends, of mentors that rallied around me to help build me back up, to
mm,
help remind me of where I've been, what I've done, the journey that I've taken to get to
mm,
where I'm at, and that I need to rely on that, those experiences to kind of build myself and build that confidence back up.
mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And
So
so they
having
kind of,
cheerleaders,
yeah,
having
and they poured
cheerleaders.
into me,
Yeah.
they poured into me and reminded me, constant reminder of, look what you've done, look what you did over here, look what you did over there. You wouldn't have been able to have done all that stuff if you didn't know your craft, if you weren't good at what you did. And so that constant reminder allowed me to be like, okay, yes, you're right. Yes, you're right. I am good. Yes. And then eventually I'm like, you know what? Wait a minute. You're absolutely
Yeah.
right. I know my stuff. Why am
Yeah.
I letting someone else allow me to second guess myself? What? Oops, stop. No, not happening. And then you put your armor back together, you close out the cracks, and
Uh-huh.
you show up at work again. And you're like, okay, let's restart this all over again. Let's have that conversation again.
Yeah.
We're going to attack this way. We're going to do it this and that. And now I'm in control. Right now, I've taken control of the
People see that.
situation and now I'm able to proceed.
Yeah.
But it's a journey. It's not an overnight thing. It takes a while to
Hmm.
get there.
How long did you say that lasts each time that happens?
Oh goodness, how long? Tony, in the various times it's happened, I would probably say that the least amount of time was maybe about 3 weeks. With the longest, honestly, the longest was maybe about 3, 4 months.
Yeah.
It
That's
took
a
it
long
took a
time.
toll.
Yeah.
It took a toll,
There's a
you
lot of
know.
that in organizations where it's so competitive that maybe that person wanted your job, right? And then
You
they
never
start
know.
and they
You
find a
never
way
know.
to break your confidence.
And people have tried. And look, you see me. I walk into organizations. I'm like, hey, what's up? Let's tell I'm like the social butterfly. Like
Yeah.
people know when I'm in the office. People know. People always know, right? I'm cheery Enna. I'm always ecstatic. I'm always happy to see everyone. I go in for the hug and the kiss because we're Latinos. We hug and we
Yeah.
kiss. um, But it's always just bringing this cheery side of myself, right? It's like,
Uh-huh.
okay, we're not going to look at things from the glass half full. We're going to look at things from, we're going to always with a positive spin. All right, this happened. Okay, so and so pushed back, or now we have less time to deliver our
Uh-huh.
projects. Okay, fine. Let's figure out how we're going to do the best thing, the best testing that we can do in the time that we have. Let's focus on that rather than, oh my God, they crunch our time again, right? Um, so always looking at things from a positive lens. This is what I bring. This is how I've been able to kind
Uh-huh.
of get myself into some positivity.
So, as a QA person, how do you see AI in your industry?
Mm. It's a great, great, great
Yeah.
question. And something that I've been thinking about honestly recently.
Mhm.
And I do believe that AI is going to be playing a much bigger role in everything that we do, especially from a quality assurance perspective.
Mhm.
When you think about the evolution of software development and quality, we kind of went from this phase of sort of what we called waterfall, right? You did all your requirements in one chunk, you did all your development, all your coding, then you did all your testing, and then you kind of went back and forth between development and coding for a while. And then a year later, you finally release
Mhm.
something to production, right? And you kind of move through the various phases where you did agile and now we're kind of in the whole DevOps space, right? Agile DevOps, where we're now actually building something. You take a smaller feature, you do your requirements, you develop it, you code it, you iterate around that, you get that really well, and that feature is done. Then you go and pick up the next feature.
Mhm.
Now you do it, right? And the reason why I'm saying all this is because we've gone from a space where you could spend 5 months writing test cases
Mhm.
to a place where you could spend, a couple of weeks, because now sprints tend to be 2 to 3 weeks, right?
Mhm.
You can spend a couple of weeks writing test cases for whatever features you're working on. AI is going to enable us to be able to have tools to allow us to write these test cases much faster,
Mhm.
right? Put in your requirements, your overall, things that you want to focus on, that you want to write your test cases against. You hit a button, AI is going to spit that information right back to you
Uh-huh.
instantly. Now, what you're going to be able to do with that then is now massage it and be like, okay, thank you, AI, for
Mhm.
giving me this outline, giving me sort of the, you know, the tool, right?
Right.
Or was right. So it's just the skeleton of the various test cases
Mhm.
that I want to have. Now let me come in here and add to it the business lens, because AI is not going to be able to give you the business lens,
Mhm.
right? At our company, we want to do it this way. We want to build something slightly
Yeah.
different. So now I'm able to focus my time on actually introducing the business specific content that I want to add to my testing. Also, it's going to enable us to actually spend time doing all of this ad hoc testing, which is honestly one of my fun part, where I just
Yeah.
get to use the tool and just break it and do all kinds of crazy things. I still love to do that kind of testing. But so AI is going to really enable us to just being able to use our time much more wisely,
Mhm.
to continue to increase quality, because as you talked about earlier, right, how do you
Yeah.
get to a point where you can have zero defects? So you need to test an infinite amount of scenarios with infinite amount of data. And what AI is going to allow us is the ability to be able to do that type of testing, complex scenarios, complex data, complex, variations
Mhm.
in a much shorter period of time. That's what
Yeah.
AI is going to allow us to do, which I
Now,
think is super exciting.
yeah, it is exciting though. Um, what about how does that replace people though?
Mm.
Because then you could theoretically be the manager of that AI, and now you might not need certain people.
And I
Is
know
that
that
something
this
you
is the
see?
fear.
That's the
I,
fear, right?
yes, it is very much the fear. But what I tell people is, way back when, we all had to use a dial-up phone, right? You remember picking up the rotary phone? You have to dial one, dial the next one, dial the next one, because that's what it was. And then the world evolved, and now we have cell phones. You can
Uh,
dial multiple people, and you can FaceTime and do all this stuff, right? It's not like if people lost their jobs, the jobs have evolved.
uh-huh.
What we're going to see is an evolution in the skill sets required to do the next generation of work.
Mhm.
Right. That's really what's going to happen. So a lot of different, states are really looking at workforce skills development, right? Because not development, training. Because now what we need to do is stay ahead of
Mhm.
how we're going to train people in AI, because the future is going to have us doing things differently.
Yeah.
So we're not going to not have a job. It's not like if all of a sudden all these folks are going to be sitting around without anything to do.
Uh-huh.
you, People are still required to be able to create these AI opportunities, these
Yeah.
AI features. Someone still needs to build that, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, you still need to be able to add to whatever AI builds your business input. You can't just blindly take something from AI
Uh-huh.
and be like, yep, copy and paste it and use it. I
Yeah.
mean, I highly recommend you do not. There's probably people that do. I don't think they should. So we're always going to need someone to come in with that human mind,
Mhm.
someone to say, okay, but I still want, if I want to target Enna Jimenez to be able to use my product, what
Yeah.
is Enna going to be thinking about? How do I market to Enna? Right?
You're right.
How do I get her to engage with my product and eventually, who knows, buy my product and give me, and consume it, right?
Mhm.
I still need someone to think through that and apply that using AI to enable them to get there. So that's really my answer. I don't
Mhm.
think it's going to be about not having jobs. I believe jobs are simply going to evolve, and we need to reskill
Ah,
all of our, our people. And here's the thing, Tony, that people are really not thinking about. We have a huge gap. As you know, the
mm,
Latino population is growing, right? We're the
yeah,
largest minority, right? And with the large number of Latinos coming into this world, they're not being trained. They're not being developed such
mm,
that they could take on these future jobs. So we're going to need to be very intentional about creating training opportunities for this workforce that is growing
yeah,
every single day in order to make sure that we're prepared to actually have a workforce to do all the work that people are going to want to do. Because you can't do it all
yep.
with AI and robots. And you won't live, you won't survive.
I think, yeah, I mean, our mutual friend Daniel, he's working on a lot of stuff with
He
that in
is.
that
He
space,
is.
right? Which leads me to the next question, right? With all the immigration issues coming around, do you still think that the American dream, as your parents went through, is still alive with all these immigrants that are coming in? Because if we just pay attention, if we just look at on the surface on the news level, it seems like the American dream is dead. Is that do you see that?
You know, I've had a chance to I have a couple of friends who are working with the immigrant population that's coming
Hmm.
into Massachusetts specifically, and seeing all the hardships and all the issues that
Hmm.
they're having, right? And not just Massachusetts, but everywhere, right? And you hear the stories about how they just want an opportunity. They just want an opportunity to be able to create a better life for their
Hmm.
families, right?
Yeah.
And that makes me, it resonates so much with what my parents thought when they moved to Puerto Rico and then eventually to Boston, right? They wanted a better opportunity. The reality is America is a better place for people when you think about what's happening in all of these other countries,
Hmm.
right? And although America is changing, and sad to say, in some places, not for the better, right?
Yeah.
I still have hope. I genuinely still have hope that people can come to America and people can still accomplish and have that American dream.
Hmm.
I feel like I have had many milestones in my career where I've been able to tell my mom, my parents, be like, "Oh my God, I accomplished this.
Yeah.
I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer." And all the amazing things that all my brothers and sisters have accomplished, we all celebrate all those wins, right? But we know we still have much more to go. I look at my kids today, right? You got 24 to 30,
Yeah.
in that range, right? And they're building their careers.
Hmm.
They're trying to figure out what's their American dreams. What is their future going to look like? What is the access for the kids who are exiting college and going into the workforce, where no one is giving people an opportunity, where it is so hard today to get a job today,
I know.
right?
I know
And
what
I
that
am
feels like.
hopeful. I know. And listen, I got I have a 25-year-old son who's been trying really hard to get a full-time job, who graduated a year and a half ago. And you
Why
see
is
his
that?
struggles.
Why is that though?
Because
Is like
some
did people forget that they were once on the other side? Is that what
I
it
don't know that
is?
it's I don't know that it's that people forget. I think that we're channeled to believe that you need to be a certain kind of person with a certain type of a GPA in order to be at a certain type of organization. And we need to change our mindsets and realize not everybody needs to go to school. Not everybody needs to have a 4.0,
Hmm.
Not everybody needs that, and not everyone's going to have that polished, shiny, knows exactly how to speak
Yeah.
in an interview. Not everyone's going to have that. And so you have to have that empathetic view, that to be able to look past that and say, but this is someone that deserves a chance. And why don't I, put my hand out and be
Hmm.
the first person to give this individual a chance? And I'm not saying it because of my son. I'm saying it because I know I've heard so many stories. There's so many people who are encountering this. I
Hmm.
have my coaching services that I offer to folks, and I've
Yeah.
been mentoring a number of women recently who, early career, mid career, and they're struggling to find jobs. They're having such a hard time. And it's because they're not getting the opportunity because someone says, well, you need to have these 10 things. You have 8, you don't have all 10, passing you
Yeah,
up for the
so
next
it's
one.
the chicken before the egg or the egg before the chicken, right?
Which is like, well, how do I get those extra 2 if you don't give me the opportunity to come in and learn it? I
Yeah,
can learn it and I can be great at it, but you got to give me a chance.
yeah,
And so we don't give people a chance to come in and just learn things, you know? So until everyone really shifts their mindset and understands that we really need to
yeah.
create spaces for everyone. Not everyone needs to walk in the door being a master at everything, an
Mhm.
expert. Until we do that, we're going to continue to have these gaps where the number of, there's going to be lots of jobs open and the number of people looking for jobs is going to exceed the number of jobs. It's just going to continue to be the way it is.
Why is there the disconnect though? When did that? I mean, who is the firm that's going to start
Mhm.
that that
I don't
that
know.
ideal mindset where it's like, hey, let's just give people a chance. How about
Yeah.
that?
I know. And I'm hopeful that there are many, I know that there are many firms that are doing, I shouldn't say I'm hopeful. I
Yeah,
personally know many firms who are doing the right thing.
yeah,
When you partner with organizations like Alpha and you partner with
mm,
organizations like NABA and
mhm,
SHEP, all these organizations that are really going out there and doing the right thing and looking for opportunities to work with these organizations to to educate them
mhm.
educate them, right? Then I know that we're making strides in the right direction, but
Yeah.
we still have so much more room to go.
Wow. Yeah. No, it's an interesting phase, I guess.
It is, it is. It'll take
Yeah.
time, Tony. It will. I don't know. I think about where we're going to be 10 years from now. Heck, 20 years from now.
Yeah.
There'll be 2 other people sitting in a podcast just like you and I here today having this exact same conversation.
Oh yeah.
There
Yeah.
will be. And it's sad to say that I know that 20 years from now, people will still be having this conversation. Hopefully, the gap is a little bit closer,
Hmm.
and it hasn't widened, but we will still be having the same conversation. My hope is at least to be able through my story, what I've been able to do,
Hmm.
my platform, to try to work with others to help to close, even if it's just a little bit,
Yeah.
you know. That's really my goal.
No, I think that's an amazing goal, and you're doing a lot already, right? So
I am trying, that is for
yeah.
sure.
Well, all good thoughts. I mean, really enjoyed having you here. And was there anything else you wanted to highlight? Anything you're working on? How do people
Yeah.
find you?
Yes, yes, thank you for that. Absolutely. So, like I mentioned in the beginning, my co-founder and I were launching a software quality assurance
Mm-hmm.
consulting organization, or a company, I should say, where we're going to be able to help firms evaluate, do an assessment
Mm-hmm.
on your quality assurance, really assess how mature are you, create a strategy for how you can improve, how you can increase your ROI, increase efficiencies, decrease your
Mm-hmm.
overall, quality costs, and using some of the great experiences that the both of us, Glenda Champ and myself, that we've had to
Mm-hmm.
be able to help every organization move forward and have better, more mature quality products and
Yeah.
quality processes. So we're very excited about launching this. In addition to, of course, me as always being a speaker. If there are organizations that are looking for a Latina speaker to come in and talk about mentorship, authenticity, leadership, just breaking the mold, right?
Mm-hmm.
Breaking through the glass ceiling. Feel free to reach out to me. And where you can find me is at www.ennajimenez.com. I offer my coaching services on there as
Mm-hmm.
well. And just super excited. Again, thank you so much, Tony,
Yeah. No, it was
for
a pleasure having
this platform and
you.
this
Yeah.
opportunity.
What's the name of the consulting company? You're welcome.
Yes, so I know. At the moment I'm launching this today, we haven't finalized the name, but you'll
Okay.
be able to still reach out to me at ennajimenez.com or find me on LinkedIn
Uh,
as we make the big unveil
yeah,
of
you
the
gotta put
company.
.ai in there somewhere.
I'll have to think about that. That's a good point. That's a good point.
AI is a hot name if you add it to
It
any
is, it
business you're starting right
is.
now.
Yes, well, I'll be super excited. We'll do a full launch and it'll be super exciting. So,
Awesome. Well, thank you again, and it was a pleasure to have you.
thank you, Tony. I appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning into the show. If you found value in what our guests shared and what we share on the show, please feel free to share with your friends and family. We'd love to see you back here. Thank you again. And you can find us on pretty much every social media channel, YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify as well. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Step into the unscripted arena.